certain kind of wisdom that only comes from stillness. You have to be willing to be still enough to get that next level of wisdom. And my challenge to you and all your viewers is see how long you can be still. Well, like Monica said, not in a relationship, not doing something, staying still at a certain spot. Because that will give you a window into your soul.
Hey y'all, I'm Yayla and this is my podcast for the girls. And this is episode 3. And today I'm here with
Monica.
Rashawn. Sir.
Okay, in today's episode we're going to be talking about how to balance your masculine and your feminine energy. So I really wanted this episode to be with women and men so you guys can get both kind of point of view and both perspectives on the topic. So yeah. So the first question I have is, what is your definition of masculine and feminine energy? And whoever wants to start first can go first.
We'll let the ladies go first.
No, go ahead. Teddy Lion.
Go, Dad.
The question, so how do I define masculine energy or feminine? Both of them?
Yes. Like, what's your definition?
I have to. When I grew up, masculine energy would have been defined differently than I think it would be defined nowadays. And I think every person's definition is going to come from a combination of their awareness level, the way they grew up, what things they were taught, etc. So from my background, I grew up in a very Christian Protestant home, grew up with all boys, very testosterone-driven environment. I was highly into sports. And I say all that to say, my definition of how I would define masculinity then versus now is completely different. And I think a lot of it also has to do with the male figure in the house. Mm-hmm. If you have, as I did, a dad who was very dominant and very domineering and very, very what they call alpha male. And he was partly that way because he didn't have a father, didn't know his father. So the United States government and armed forces raised him in the sense of teaching him what discipline was, being very militant. So that was his backdrop for masculinity, and that was his backdrop for showing love and how to raise his boys. And so I say all that to say, the definition for me has changed over the years when my awareness grew on why certain things were done. Mm-hmm. I think everything was done in the essence of love, but when I dug deeper and I go, why was my dad that way? Why did he have such a heavy hand on discipline? And I began to understand the father figure he knew as love was the United States government. Discipline, regiment, this, that. And so when he had boys, what he knew was to love them, but how he knew to love them was from one way. And so his definition of masculinity would be very alpha orientated in the sense that powerful, protecting, you don't cry, you go out and break your back. Your job is to take care of responsibility. Emotions came second. What you feel didn't matter. What you were doing mattered most. What you were getting accomplished mattered, not necessarily how you were doing it. Feelings, like I said, were always in the backdrop. So if it hadn't been for my mother, who was kind of a polar opposite than my dad, my awareness would have been lacking. And when I say my awareness, what I mean is the being inquisitive enough to go, there's more to masculinity than what my dad is showing me. Even though that's what he knows, and even though that's the environment that I'm growing up in, there's a whole nother side to it. And as I've gotten older, I've come to understand my definition of masculinity is somebody who's disciplined, purposed, but also compassionate, curious about their own awareness, and is never so rigid that a thing, a definition, an idea has to be locked in concrete. And when I grew up, masculinity was locked in concrete. Men don't do this, boys don't do this. And that's what I mean as I've evolved, my definition of masculine energy has changed a lot.
So then what's your definition of feminine energy for a man?
Well, I would challenge the concept that feminine energy is exclusive to women. because you said, what's my definition of feminine energy to a man? I think there's balanced energies, and I think what happens is the world puts it into a construct of this has to be masculine, this has to be feminine. What I think there is there's just energy, and we bring definitions to it because we mentally need it to be in a box. Because if your next assertion is energy is both female and masculine, feminine and masculine, then what we're talking about is just energy. And then we're talking about how we describe it. Because a male could possess quote unquote feminine energy and a female could possess quote unquote masculine energy. And that's not necessarily true. They possess energy. We're defining it and putting it in a masculine box and putting it in a feminine box. So I believe it's just energy, and there's balanced energy. And if you look at everything in the universe is optimized when it's balanced. It's not optimized because it's in a box, masculine here, feminine there. It's optimized because it's balanced.
Okay, so what's your definition? Started off hot.
Really good. No, I piggyback off of what he said, because I really believe that it all boils down to one's definition. For me, masculine energy, I would probably say it has to do with providing, the same thing, structure, but as well as love. For me, it would have to be with, it would have to do with being true to myself. So that's what that masculine energy is. It's whatever you create. So for me, I'm a lover. I'm a lover and a fighter. So it has to do with just, staying true to who I am, if that makes sense.
Okay, Monica, what's your opinion on what feminine energy is?
Yeah, I was going to say, because they both kind of really heavily weighed on the masculine energy. So I'm going to speak. I think given the right environment, I think the feminine energy to me is being able to be in a safe place where you're soft. You're a caretaker. You're in a safe place to be submissive. I think being loving and willing to support the masculine energy in your relationship.
Okay, back to you, sir. So you said masculine energy is just kind of knowing who you are and being who you are. So my next question is how do men figure out who they are for both of y'all?
For me, I would say spending a lot of time in introspection, learning where you come from, getting to the root of things, getting to the root of problems, getting to the root of traits. Ultimately, for me personally, it all leads back to God. So getting in your word, learning your role and your responsibility of being a man, because, like he said, it's about, it's just energy at the end of the day. However, as a man, you do have a certain role, you do have certain responsibilities that you have to tend to. But above all else, I would in a sense say just like I said, isolation, introspection, not just going or taking and running with what you've been told or what you've been taught, but questioning it, and not questioning it to rebel, but questioning and really seeking and looking deep within to find answers. You know what I'm saying? Where does this come from? Sometimes being a fly on the wall, being observant, of your family members, being observant to, maybe some generational curses that you see within your family, or, if it's pain or rejection, whatever it is. It's just ultimately looking deep within yourself and following your heart, following your gut, and being true to that, and not running with the crowd. If you believe something, standing firm in your beliefs and not being afraid to walk that out.
Big facts. Okay, Dad, what about you?
And the question was, how do you find who you are? How
do you find who you are? Figure out who you are as a person, who you are as a man.
I would say for me, again, it's taking a step back. It's because you say who you are as a man. I think a lot of the questions you got to you have to break away from the construct of I have to put things in a box. What I mean is, if you ask your question is who you are as a person, who you are as a man, who you are as a person comes first. And then who you are as a man, like Sir talked about, is developed later. And I think the key thing is order. Is if I ever go to look for who I am as a man before I try to figure out who I am as a person, what I'm doing is I'm putting my being second and I'm putting my title first. And I think you'll never fulfill your title if that's first and you ignore the being. What I mean is all of us here are beings. You just happen to be a female body, I happen to be in a male body, but we're beings. And understanding, and I'll say this principle, understanding how to be a human being first instead of a human doing. I'll say it again. A human doing the role of manhood is me actively playing a role. A human being is me actually learning how to be human. And being human is neither masculine, it's neither feminine. It's the energy, the balance of both. Being human is sometimes I need to be hard and sometimes I need to be soft. A human doing is I'm a man, I'm always hard. That's what men do. No, it's not being human. And so that's what I mean by the order of things. So when I look at it, I obviously told you I grew up in that human doing the role of a man. A human doing the role of a big, black, African, American athlete man. A human doing, I was doing those roles. And then I got to a certain age where I increased my awareness of what I was taught and what I know isn't all there is. And I mentioned this earlier when I talked about my dad. And I began to look beyond what he did and try to find the compassion in why he did it. And in that process, I began to learn, I need to learn the human being and get away from the human doing. And then that had me have everything that I thought I knew, the construct of providing, protecting, a masculine role, being hard, being tough, being this, being that. And then I started to look at what is just being human? Because being human is part of that, but it's also part of being soft. It's also part of being gentle. And through that, I started to break down everything I thought about my journey of growing into a man and started to think about my journey of growing into a human being. And that started by me increasing my awareness. It started by me going questioning, like Sir talked about. Questioning is like, why is it that way? Why does it have to be that way? I was obviously, when I was young, and I was thinking I was trying to become a man first, because that was what we thought. You need to be a man. You need to be a man. You hear more about being talked about being a man than you do about being human. I don't ever remember my dad or grandfather or uncle saying, hey, you need to learn how to be a human being. Because it's always assumed that we know how to be human.
Right.
When it's not. It's a learned experience. And so, to your question, I was trying to become a man first. And I realized I'm bumping my ceiling on things that I didn't necessarily agree with. Like, why can't a man cry? Like, what is up with that? Why does a man have to be the one that always goes out of the house and worked? How does that make sense? What if he stays home and raises the kid? You know what I mean? I started to bump into the ceiling of the construct that I was taught for a man. And then I realized me trying to accomplish that ceiling was limiting me as a human being. And so then I started to challenge those things. Like, well, I can cry. I mean, if I'm emotional, I can cry. What's wrong with that? Let me step into that. Because that is a part of being a human being, is exploring all of me, my emotions, my thoughts, my this, my that. But being a man, based on where I came from, was limited. It didn't allow me to go over here. It was actually taught, don't go over there. You soft, you a sucker. No, I'm exploring my humanness. And so when I began to understand that the construct I had of being a man limited me being human, I let go of the construct of being a man. I let go of that. And I just tried to lean into being human. And through leaning into being human, it was things like challenging everything I thought about what I thought or what I had been taught about being a man. Can't cry. Why not? Let me try crying. Let me see how it feels to sit in those emotions. And then I began to explore my humanness. And part of me exploring my humanness, it took me to being a man. It took me to understand what is that role, and that I control the definition of that. Nobody else controls the definition for me. What is it to be a man? Because being a man is just a subset of being human. The ultimate goal is to be human. And then along the way of being human, there's many roles you play. And so so I'm still in that journey. I think everybody who's evolving is in that journey, because the journey isn't about the title. It's not about being the basketball player, the football player. It's about being the best athlete you can be, being the best human you can be. And along being the best human you can be, you'll fill in many roles. For example, parent. If you be the best human you can be, you'll be the best parent. If you are being the best human you can be, you'll be the best brother. You'll be the best sister. You'll be the best employee you can be. But if you only limit yourself to, I want to be the best man, how are you ranking up against being human?
Okay.
Oh, I get quiet.
Bye. Anyways, Monica, so yeah, the question for you would be, how would you say you tapped into your femininity, and like how you figured out who you were as a person and then as a woman in those two separate journeys?
I know this one. I know this one. When your dad talks about like growing up, I grew up in a family of predominantly women, single women who were very strong. Strong woman, do your thing, be independent, take care of yourself. Don't depend on a man. I don't know how many times I've been told in my life, don't depend on a man. It's always have your own, do this, do that. You stand on your own 2 feet. And after, and that's why I always grew up with that. And, I didn't have my kids until I was 30. So being single, I didn't depend on anyone. I took care of myself. I did my own thing. But after many, failed relationships and roadblocks and dead ends, like with careers or, like I said, relationships, I started to have to look inward and go, okay, why am I having these dead end things in my life? And I think growing into a woman wasn't about, I can do this on my own. That wasn't the definition. I've learned that's not the definition of being a woman, but it was more about like digging deep and realizing what my traumas were and how that was like restricting me from living the life that I really wanted to live. And so doing the work and figuring out like what I like, and not just, doing things to please people or put on this facade about, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't like that, or this is what I want. But it was really about what I want and being true to myself, like what you were talking about, like just being like, what do I want? It may not, people may not agree with it, but it's like, this is who I am, and this is what I like. And so once you get to that place of feeling comfortable, that's where you really start to tap in with being like feminine, like we talked about earlier about being submissive. Not all women would agree with that, but I think when you get to a place where you're like, I'm okay with that. That may not be the popular opinion, but I'm okay with that. And when you get to a place of I'm okay with that, then you can. That's when I feel like I'm tapped into my feminine self.
Yeah. So my question, the next question would be like, what is your definition of a woman? Like I know everyone's different, but what's yours? And how did you find what that looks like for you?
I think the definition of a woman is one who can be alone and be okay with that and be happy with that. Like so much where girls are raised to be like, you have to have a man to complete you. You have to have this. It's the only way to happiness. You have to be a mother. You have to, be in a relationship or be with a man, and that's the only way you're gonna be happy. But I feel like when you grow into being a woman, I completely disagree with the statement, he completes me. I don't agree with that. I think you should complete yourself. And I don't, somebody may compliment you and you may work well with someone, but I don't feel like another person, not just a man, but I don't think another person should complete you. I think you need to, my definition of growing into being a woman is being okay with being alone, making yourself happy, and then, dealing with your traumas, dealing with whatever you have going on, and then going out and being with someone else.
Right, like realizing that you complete yourself.
Yeah. And you're okay with that. Like I can go to the movies by myself. I can go to dinner by myself. None of that bothers me. I can be alone, no problem.
Yeah. So because my podcast there's mainly girls watching. So how would you say that what steps do you feel like you took to get there?
Ooh.
Or like steps that you feel like would help them get there.
One is just, oh gosh, I'm trying to think about like what is the actual point where I've always kind of been okay with like I could be by myself. I think you just have to like really learn to just go, I don't have to follow the social norms. I don't have to follow, I need to have a husband. I need to be a mom. There was a long period of time where I didn't want to be a mom. Right. And most women are like, well, what do you mean you don't want to be a mom? Like, and I didn't want to be a mom. Even when I became a mom, I was like, oh, I'm having kids. This is really happening to me. But I think that the steps are, just sitting in your own company, and then figuring out what you like. Because even if you do decide to be in a relationship, you should still have your own, own hobbies and your own interests and things like that. And you can't do that until you sit in your own like company and figure out, well, I like to do this, I like to do that.
Right.
So I would say just the journey to that is first sitting by yourself.
Yeah.
And then for girls who have already been in relationships, and if you're in relationship after relationship after relationship, you have to stop for a minute and go, okay, no more relationships. I'm going to sit in this by myself, and I'm going to date myself. I'm going to do my own thing until I realize what makes me happy and what I like outside of
being someone else, being with someone else. Yeah. So my question for all of y'all is, how do you feel like you can, I know, Dad, you said that energy is just like, it's just energy once you put it in a box and you're labeling it, but how do you balance your energy without exuding one more than the other? Is that the right word? I think that's the right word.
I think I know what you're asking. Like, how do you find balance or harmony in
Right.
the energies that exist? I think like Monica said, it's about knowing yourself. And the longest journey we have in life is not the journey to a destination, but it's the journey to understand who we are. That's the longest journey we have in life. And what I mean by that is everything everybody's saying, I think, is before you can be anything, you need to learn who you are. And who you are is not a title. It's not a woman, it's not a man, it's not an employee, it's not an athlete. Who you are is human. And before you can even segregate part of your being to a title, man, female, athlete, this, you have to first know the essence of your being, which is being human. And like Monica said, that takes spending time with yourself. It takes learning how to love yourself. And when I say love, I'm not talking about giving yourself anything or doing anything to yourself. I'm talking about the love of exploring who you are. Like, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I want? What do I think? What do I not think? What do I believe? And I think that comes from, like I said, being instead of doing it. And the difference between being and doing, being is the state of being present in a place, not rushing to do this or do this, not coming to a certain spot with an agenda or trying to hit a label or trying to meet this standard. It's just being there and enjoying yourself there and exploring what do you like. And I think so much of past generations and current generations are so focused on doing, accomplishing, that we spend very little time being and learning who we are, like Monica said, learning yourself. We spend all this time chasing titles and carrots and all these things. And we never get to, not never, but we rarely spend time meeting ourselves. And like Monica talked about females and males running from relationship to relationship, I call that self-medicating. You're trying to feel something because you're trying to ignore looking at something else. Right. And I have a belief, all of us are running. All of us are running. We're either running away from something or we're running to something. But we're running. If you're running away from something, you're more apt to miss things. You're more apt to not be aware because you're running away from it. Your primary focus is to get away. When you're running to something, your focus is that thing that you're running for. And so if we were to focus on running towards being human versus running away from being human, I think we would land in the spot of, oh, I learned this about myself. I learned this about people. I learned this about other things. And I think that journey, running towards being human, is one that is a lot. There's a lot more to learn. There's a lot more self-discovery running towards that than there is running away from being human. And what I mean by running away from it is, I don't like being alone. So I'm gonna be in a relationship. I'm being in this relationship. I don't like being by myself, so I always got to be doing something. So now you're running away from what the universe is trying to hold you to, which is learn yourself.
Right.
Learn what you like. Run towards being alone. Run towards that thing to discover, oh. And I'll give you this before I let it go, is my grandmother always said this, your grandmother too, your grandmother. She said, there's a certain kind of wisdom that only comes from stillness. You have to be willing to be still enough to get that next level of wisdom. And my challenge to you and all your viewers is see how long you can be still. Well, like Monica said, not in a relationship, not doing something, staying still at a certain spot. Because that will give you a window into your soul as far as how soon you become agitated, how soon you have to move, how soon you have to do something. It's a sign that you're running from being uncomfortable. Right. And that discomfort is the beginning of the revelation into yourself.
Preach, Pastor.
I get 2 snaps.
I felt the spirit. Yeah. Anyways, okay, sir. So, same question goes for you. We should put you at the end.
For real. I mean, your dad said it all. If I had to add my 2 cents, I would just say, deprogramming yourself. Because like when you come to this earth, a lot of your beliefs, a lot of like your values, your morals, it stems from your parents, teachers, or your environment, or your surroundings. Mm-hmm. So it has to do with deprogramming yourself.
Okay. So Monica, for you, how would you say that you, as a woman, balance both? Like you balance your feminine energy and your masculine energy, even though they're both like just energy. But I think sometimes women or girls of my age get scared to be, more into the feminine energy because they're like, oh, that's masculine, and like, You
mean, how do I balance? So I have both feminine and masculine energy. So you're asking, how do I balance the two? Well, I would say for a long time, I had a lot of masculine energy. Because of the whole thing of the upbringing, like, and being a single mom, like I've handled, and when I say single mom, I mean real single mom. It wasn't like I was sharing the responsibilities with a parent. So I had to be both. I had to be mother, I had to be father. I had to be like the provider and the disciplinary, and I had to play both roles. And I've done it for 19 years, and so it's very hard to deprogram myself from being both. And now I was just talking to Jada yesterday, and I was saying, before kids, I was very much of a free spirit, and then I kind of had to pack that away because now I had 2 kids, and I couldn't be a free spirit anymore. And I slowly feel like that's coming back, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. And with the free spirit is more of a feminine energy. It's like I'm allowed to be womanly and soft and carefree and loving, and I don't have to be all hard and independent, and and I really don't want to be. I don't like the masculine energy. I prefer the feminine energy more, but I've been that for so long. So it's now I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to balance it a little bit better. But
and what would you say, like, what steps do you feel like helped you balance both and help you realize that you need to balance both? Oh yeah, if y'all don't know, Rashawn and Monica, they date each other. Yeah.
We date each other.
Actually giving game on is to challenge your thinking, to challenge it, especially in your generation, more so than mine. There is so much pushed down on you in regards to you have to this, have to that, have to this, think this way, dress this way, have this. And that's where when we talk about learning yourself and exploring being human, you have to push against those constructs. You have to push against those things and ask why. Why is being a woman or being feminine this way or that way? And never before have we ever, to my knowledge, been in a society that is so open to be challenged. When I grew up, it was shut up, sit still, be quiet, do what you're told. Now society's like, tell me why. Explain that to me. What do you
feel
mean
about that?
Yeah. And so society's at this birthplace of challenge the construct, really push against it, ask why is that definition being placed on you, and does it fit?
Yeah.
I just want to say that was good, especially because it's like putting like the titles for that, because it's the analogy that I would give is like, you know, like a child or your son, like, you know what I'm saying, he's being raised by you, and typically what a young boy would do is he would wear his dad's shoes, or he would try on his dad's shoes, but nowadays in today's society, okay, he tries on your shoes and then he's labeled as, well, that's gay, well, that's boom. But it's not even, and then before he can even form in his own opinion, he's thinking, because of being put into a box, when that's not really what it is. That's just, or as they would say, feminine energy, because of him being raised by a single mother, and he grows up, oh, you're soft, oh, you're boom. But it's not that. It's just, you know what I'm saying? So
even if you take your example, which is a great example, back it up, right? So if you grow up in a household where there's only women and there's only female shoes there, right? Part of surviving and growing up in our society is putting on what? Shoes.
Correct.
But if all the shoes I have to put on are high heels and flats,
Wow.
what is my survival thing gonna tell me to do? Put on shoes, right?
Yeah.
Put on shoes. But then what is society gonna say in this construct? I show up with organs and genitalia like a man. A male, the construct is gonna say you shouldn't put on those shoes.
Correct.
But society doesn't say, well, I was raised with only these shoes.
Correct.
And part of survival means in this society, I go outside with shoes on.
Correct.
So I'm doing the survival part, which is grab shoes, but I'm not doing the thriving part, which is grab the appropriate shoe, quote unquote, to society, because those are the only shoes I have. So this is what I'm saying is we're not complimenting or rewarding somebody for learning how to be human, meaning, oh, you got it. In our society, before you go outside, grab shoes. Great job. We're judging them on, are they thriving? Are they picking the appropriate shoes for the construct they were born in? And we're skipping the survival part. Be happy I grabbed shoes, because now I'm surviving. If you want me to thrive, let's look at what thriving is. Does it mean I can't wear high heels outside? Because we do have drag queens that wear high heels outside. Does it mean I need to wear tennis shoes? See what I'm saying? Because can girls wear tennis shoes? Yes. Can boys wear tennis shoes? Yes. So those are all things when you look at fitting somebody into a construct outside of just survival. And that was a great example you brought up.
If, like, for example, so if you're a young boy and you're growing up with all women in the family, how do you find a balance to feminine energy and find masculine energy when all you've been around is feminine energy?
How do you find it?
Yeah, how do you find a balance? Because there's a lot of boys who don't have a dad in nowadays societies. So how do they find, without being overly masculine? I feel like boys in my society are like overly masculine or trying to be overly masculine. Like, nah, that's hella weird to cry, or that's hella weird to, you know, be soft or be emotional to a girl. But it's like, it's not.
Because remember when I talked to you earlier, they're running away from being human and trying to run into being this definition of male, of man. And anytime you run away from your essence, human, every person on this earth at their core is a human being. So anytime you run away from your essence and you chase a title, you're gonna be in battle. You're gonna be in battle. And so it's that battle, and that's the beauty of whether you're spiritual or religious, that's the beauty of God and the universe, is you don't get to go to the next level till you pass the previous level. And so that battle is bringing you back home. Like, hey, you ain't ready for that yet. Hey, you ain't ready for that yet. And what I mean by that is, if you haven't perfected being human, you will never perfect any role you want to be. Because remember what I told you, the roles are a subset of being human. Human is the overarching thing. If I'm the best human being I could be, I'll be the best subset of whatever it is. And so you have, and I was the same way growing up. What would a man do? What would a man do? What would a man do? Instead of what would a human being do? So how to find that is they have to wrestle out that battle in their soul of what's calling them home. I believe in every person there's something calling us back to our essence. And if we just really want to get political with it, and I'm on no side of the aisle on this, it's where people talk about, well, when they were born, they had this tendency to be quote unquote homosexual or whatever. Every human being is called back to an essence that they feel is calling them. And that's the battle I'm talking about. And so until they write that battle of being called home and trying to explore where they are trying to go, and the battle specifically is when you're running from something and you're focused on running away, you're not focused on where you're going. But when you also understand, I'm running towards something, but I'm also trying to avoid something. That's the battle, being caught in that middle. And for example, I don't want to be lazy. So I'm running towards getting up consistently at a designated time and being disciplined. But I also know that laziness is pulling me back. And so as long as I'm trying to pull away from that, focusing on where I'm going, not just running from this, but focusing on where I'm going, that balance point creates exploration, it creates self-discovery. And more concretely, it's when young men are like, oh my God, I thought being a man was this. And like Monica said, I bumped my head up against all these things I thought and I failed. And it pushed me back to that essence, that balance point where she said, I had to go, what are you doing? Like, why do you think that? Why are you thinking I don't need anybody? And so it's being in that battle and going forward and being pulled back, going forward and being pulled back. The coming back makes you realize what it is I'm running towards and what it is I'm running from. I need to stop. I need to sit in that stillness and figure out being a man isn't about how many women I can be with. Being a man isn't about dominating women or doing women in. Being a man isn't about self-medicating myself and running away from what's trying to have me be still. Being a man isn't about running towards promiscuity or how many numbers I can have under my belt. That's not. Because think about it. You're running from something and you're trying to run towards something that you think is going to define you when it's not.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of times for girls growing up in my age, it's like you're either all the way feminine or you're all the way masculine. And if you're masculine, you have to be deemed as gay or bisexual or a lesbian because masculine energy is associated with men. But how would you say that you can find like a balance, like a equilibrium to where you're not overly masculine but not overly feminine?
Let me see if I understand your question correctly. I feel like girls in your generation have a lot of masculine energy because they feel like they have to be hard. Because when I look at the boys in your generation, they are placed in situations where they do have to be hard. They're not in situations like I stated earlier. When a woman is in a safe place, she can be soft. Right. She can be feminine. But I think in your generation, these girls are like they have to be hard. They have a lot of masculine energy, more than I think that it's kind of unfortunate that they have that. But I don't really know how they can balance. That's difficult because I feel for you. I feel for your generation. I'm like, yeah, I think between like social media and just the way that you guys are growing up, it's like I feel like girls are not given a fair opportunity to just be soft and just be what women are born to be. So I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't want to give you just an answer because I don't know how.
What works for you? Because you said that you were more so into your masculine energy, and then over time you grew into being
more feminine.
Yeah, and finding a.
Could we stop calling it masculine energy and call it just survival mode energy or whatever, like survival energy? And like Monica said earlier, if you're not safe, if you don't feel safe, you're in survival mode. I was
going to say, I've been in survival mode for a long time. So you won't want to call it masculine energy. Until you're in a position, if you're talking about being in a relationship with someone, you're going to be in survival mode because you every day it's like I only count on myself. I can't count on anybody else. It's just me. And it's really hard to get out of survival mode because even in a relationship where when you do find that you're in a safe place, if something goes wrong, you're quick to revert back to, I got it. I'll do it on my own. Like, right. Because when you're in survival mode for so long, that's all you know. And it's very easy to go back to that. And that's a safe place. That's a very safe place because I know that on my own, I'm going to make it happen. And I don't have to worry about this other person or what they may think of me or what they may not do or what they may hold over my head. And if it's just me.
For what we're trying to do, I think it's beneficial to not label it as masculine or feminine, especially when she asserted, I'm in survival mode. I'm just trying to survive. And I'll play whatever role I need to play to survive, because that's what humans do.
So how do you get out of survival mode? How do you stop from reverting back to those habits?
I was gonna say that.
That's not a conscious thing. It's not conscious. It's a subconscious thing. And understanding human dynamics and human development, in the lower part of our brain, the hypothalamus, is where our survival mechanism is at. It runs on the subconscious level. Like, you don't have to tell yourself to breathe because it's wired into your subconscious. You do it anyway because it's part of your survival. So anytime somebody's in survival mode, they're doing a lot of things they're unaware of. And that's what Monica mentioned earlier. It starts with increasing your awareness of yourself. Like, this is what I'm doing because of my construct, because of my situation, because of my circumstances. I have a propensity to subconsciously act like this. When you have that awareness, then you can have the conscious overlay to say, okay, I need to consciously stop this or be aware of stopping this. And once you get to that point and you can practice stopping it, then you could also practice putting in a new skill. What that might look like is, in Monica's case, and correct me if I speak out of turn, I'm so used to doing things on my own or thinking I have to do it on my own. When I have a partner with me and I begin to do that and I catch myself, okay, I've caught myself. That's the first thing. Stop running the old programming, deprogramming yourself. Stop running that. Okay, cool. Now, let me have the conscious awareness to insert a different program. That program might be called trust. Let me now step out of my comfort zone, risk, communicate, and now trust this other person that I'm not used to showing up for me to show up for me. When they do that repeatedly and you practice that skill, it lowers your anxiety, which is part of survival mode, and it allows you to trust and feel safe. And then when you feel safe, you can now practice a new skill, which is not being in survival mode. Like, let me now take off my survival energy and figure out what energy balances this. Sometimes it may be quote unquote masculine energy. Sometimes it may be quote unquote feminine energy. It's not about the label. It's about, now that I'm not having to worry about survival, I can now worry about balance and harmony.
Yeah, and you know what? Your dad is speaking my thoughts, because I think what else, it's letting go of pride and ego and allowing, whether it's a friend, a parent, the person you're in a relationship with, whoever, allowing them to call you out on your stuff. So sometimes it's like, hey, you're doing it, or and letting go of getting defensive and being like, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? And actually going, okay, when they point that out, being aware of it and then making a conscious decision to change that habit.
Yeah, that's another thing. Dad, you said one time we were talking, you said that Monica like helps you balance your masculine and feminine energy. How do you feel like she helps you do that? For my people who be in relationships.
For me, my natural inclination and my natural learned construct is to be male and to be masculine. That's my natural learned construct. That's what communicators would call my front style. That's what's going to come out even if I'm not really conscious of it. She helps me balance it out by letting me know there's a flip side. There's a whole nother side to this. There's a whole nother, like, hey, you could have said it this way, or you could have thought about it this way, or you could have went about it this way. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And my way is not always the most effective way. It's just my learned way. Right. So as we start talking about feeling safe, and you go from wanting to survive to wanting to thrive, you now begin to look at what would be effective versus what was just safe. Survival is all about what's safe. This is what I know is safe. I know how to deal with this. I'm going to do what's safe. That's my front style. Works 90% of the time. I'm safe. I'm going to do it. Thriving is not about safety. It's about effectiveness. And so Monica helps me out by going in a different way. She's saying this. It may have been more effective with me if you would have did it this way. Now, for me, that's not safe. But because I feel safe and I'm not in survival mode, I can now embrace what's effective. Okay, so this is effective. Okay, so now I want to do that. Being human is about being effective. Being effective. Like, how can I touch every human being, every human soul? How can I be effective? And follow this. That doesn't require a masculine or feminine energy.
Right.
It requires a balancing of energy. So to my point, when you go and you're safe, you're outside of survival mode and you feel safe, you can now begin to look at what's effective, what will thrive here, what will live and survive and thrive in the setting. And thriving is all about balance and harmony. That's what I'm talking about. Energies are not about male, female. It's about balancing whatever is missing there.
Now for the man, white or black. Anyways, okay, so my next question would kind of be, how do you know if the environment is safe or not? Like, is it just something that you know in yourself, like you have to just trust your intuition, trust your gut? Or is it like some environments are like, no, that's like, how do you know if the environment is safe or not safe? Because I would say I would just like go to your intuition, like you know as a person. But
I'll be real quick like this. Safety comes in inches and ounces. It doesn't come in feet and pounds. Safety comes in inches and ounces. It doesn't come in feet and pounds.
So you're saying it comes like small.
Very, 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 very small. And if you're not aware, if you're playing roles and you're not looking for balance, you'll miss it. I've missed it many times, Monica. Many, many times. I'm playing my role and I'm man hard and this. What are you talking about? And this is the way it should go. And you should see this and see this. And so I'm playing that role. I'm not being a human being. I'm not looking for the balance of energy. I'm looking for the imbalance of energy. See what I'm saying? I'm looking
for what's missing, not what's there.
Yeah, I'm looking for what she's not doing in her role. Because if you did your role, I could do my role. That's me playing this male construct. Instead of going, as a human being, I'm noticing I'm overwatering the plant. That's why the plant's drowning. I'm giving the plant what it needs, but I'm giving it too much at this time. So I need to step. So you need to step back and balance it. So safety comes when you feel like you will be balanced. If she knows, I will be received when I'm out of balance. You will balance me. If I know in the moment that I need balancing, you will balance me, I will always feel safe. Because all of us will be out of balance. The question we always ask, and why friend groups are important, is who can I be out of balance with? Not if I'll be out of balance. Who can I be out of balance with? And that creates safety. If a person is in an emotional space, you have to meet them in the emotional space.
Right.
You meet them there. You don't balance them there. You meet them there. When the window opens for balance, you balance that emotion with logic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you have to meet them at the emotion.
I feel like that's really good though. I mean, because it's even with the balance. I mean, it's everything. It's really being patient.
Yeah.
It's being slow to speak, quick to listen. You know, it's being understanding. Like that's another thing. I feel like a lot of times we want it to be our way.
Right.
You know, it's our way or the highway for, you know, this person or this, especially nowadays, it's like, oh, they this, oh, I'm cutting off. I'm not. But that's not how it works. It takes time. You know what I'm saying? Even finding that safe place. A lot of times you don't even have a safe place with yourself.
Right.
You know, because you're so busy running, you're so busy distracting yourself. Then nowadays you got social media, you got so many distractions. So it's like it's time, it's balance. Like you said, it's being still. It's the deprogramming yourself. I mean, it's all of those things, and ultimately, it's a never-ending journey.
Yeah.
You know?
Big facts. Was there anything else you guys want to say, or you guys feel like people should know about or shed light on?
Yeah, I love you very much. I'm so proud of you for doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Fab.
I honestly, real talk, everything I said was real for that. I think that your audience and folks will really, the journey you're going on for yourself is one that I think they'll benefit for themselves. And the questions you're asking, I think are really deep and really dope because you're trying to, like I said, you're hitting your head on that construct, and you're running into your role, but you're also running into being human. And I think you and your generation, that's where they are. And I think it'll be great because you're meeting them right where they are.
Great. Anyway, Monica, anything you want to say to the girls?
No, I am proud of you though. I told you that before.
Oh, thanks,
I'll just say one thing.
Hold on, why you didn't do that when I said it?
Oh, thanks, Dad.
I will say, think it's with time. I think it's when you find yourself in positions where you fall and somebody has your back, that's when you go, okay, I can trust them. I can trust them. But when you fall and that person's gone or they turn their back on you, that's how you know it's not a safe place.
Yeah.
But for all the young girls, like I would just tell you or my daughter or young girls, just be okay with just spending time with yourself.
Right.
Getting to know yourself and don't always feel like you have to follow like the social norms. Like, you know, with having to have a boyfriend, having a husband, kids. Just kind of fall in love with yourself first.
Yeah.
And one thing I always tell Jada, like this is one thing I tell girls, women are raised to always please a man and give to a man. Find out how to please yourself first and how to take care of yourself first. What makes you feel good, what makes you happy, and then get to that, do that first, and then you can give to others.
Right, because you can't really give if you don't know yourself. You have to know yourself before you can expect someone to know who you are.
And I want to say one other point, because that's young. It is nobody else's responsibility to show you the real you. That's the work you need to do. Right. So to say, like, in some sense, well, he didn't love me because he wasn't willing to stick around. No. That's not true.
Right.
It's not true. You owe it to yourself, if you want to be loved, to love yourself enough to know who you are. It's nobody else's responsibility to introduce you to yourself.
Right.
So just be aware of that. Because if you're on that road of thinking, you're never going to get anywhere. Because you're going to always come, because what you're doing is you're avoiding looking in the mirror. You're blaming it on them, saying they should have stuck around long enough for me to meet myself. And because they didn't stick around, that's why I can't get what I need. That's why don't nobody want to love. No.
Well, that goes in part with spending time alone, because before you get into anything, you should have already done the work. You shouldn't be taking, we all have things going on in baggage and things, but you shouldn't take your unknowns about yourself into a relationship and expect that person to fix you.
Right.
Well, but I think you don't know what you don't know. So you're going to show up with unknowns. I think the thing is, though, don't make that my responsibility.
Yes, that's,
Accountability.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, sir?
No, I just want to, join what everybody said, I'm proud
You just want to agree with the party.
I'm proud of you. I love you so very much.
Hey.
And I'm really excited to see what's to come of this. I believe whether you're aware or not, things that you spoke years ago, it's coming to fruition now. So it's like just keep going.
Yeah, big body men. Anyways, well, thank you guys for being on my podcast, because I did it for free. You know what I'm saying? Thank y'all for spending your Sunday afternoon with me. I guess we'll see you guys next episode. Catch you guys in 2 weeks.
Y'all support real fast, because she got all of us gifts out of her own pocket.
Facts.
We ain't gonna have